If you like the look of some inking, I didn't do a ton of inking, but just on a few pieces, I used some black and brown ink, just with like, you know, blending tool. And, you know, I probably have forgotten something, but, you know, we'll figure it out as we come to it. But since all of your pieces are pre-die cut already, you don't need your die cutting machine or anything like that for this video. For this video, we're just assembling. All right, so let's jump right in. Give myself some room here. We're going to start by assembling the card. And first thing I want you to find is your actual card itself. So we cut this out of a nice heavyweight black cardstock. And during the prep work, we did like a double fold so that it has just a little bit of a gusset to it. That'll help since we're putting those two stacked balls inside there. Because we did a gusseted fold, one side doesn't come all the way to the other side in the closed position, and that's what we want. We actually want to attach our flap to the longer side, so the side that's sticking out is where we would want to put the flap. Okay, so then now we're jumping into our first required die, which is our long flap enclosure die set. So it comes with 4 pieces. It comes with a flap. That's the one that we're using right now that we cut out of black. It comes with the decorator overlay. The washers are flowers, and then it's got the spacers. So what's nice about this one is it'll go all the way out to 8.5 inches like we're using today, or if you were doing a slim line, you've got that full 8.5 inch length. But then notice after you die cut it, it has these little notches. If you were to cut this down on these outside notches, the resulting flap is 6 inches. And if you were to cut it on these inner notches, the resulting flap is 3.5 inches. And of course you can cut it at any place in the middle, but we've given you those 2 measurements really easily because those all sort of correspond to those standard slimline cards. The other thing that this one includes is a double fold. So let's go ahead. Oh, that's another thing you might want is a bone folder since we're using pretty heavy cardstock. So we're going to engage both of the folds. Now, if you were doing a project and you just wanted a single, you didn't need a gusseted flap, you could do just one of the folds and then you'd glue it on. You know, let's say you didn't have any dimension to your card and you just wanted to make a decorative flap, you could use just one fold. But we want to have a gusseted fold. So now I need to fold on the second one as well. I'm folding away from myself on both of those. So that the pretty side where the stitch mark is up, and then I've got 2 mountain folds. And I will go ahead and see if I can get that second fold with the bone folder as well. Okay. All right, so now by engaging both folds, I basically have a gusset for the other side of my card as well. So when you're using our ball dies, you do kind of need a closure, some kind of way to keep them closed because, well, I say that, I mean, maybe you don't need to keep them closed. Maybe you're planning on just having the envelope keep your card closed. But because the pop-ups have rubber bands in them, they're always going to want to spring back up. So if you just think about a normal card that doesn't have a closure, sure, I guess you could just pop that in the envelope and then when they pull it out, it immediately pops up. Or if you want to have more of a reveal, then you'll want to use some kind of closure. So this is just, you know, sometimes people use magnets or belly bands, you know, there's different things you can do. All right, let's go ahead and attach this flap to the main card. So we only want the adhesive in this outer section here, you know, not between the 2 folds or anything, just in this outer section. And, you know, I would be somewhat generous with your glue since, you know, you want this to hold up. All right, so I'm going to open this up. And again, I'm attaching to the side that's longer. See? All right. And then I just want to get that end to end, since it's the same length as the card itself. It's basically coming up to the first fold line. So I'm going to pull that forward so that I can really give it, you know, a good press. Show you on the back there what's going on. Attaching it right there. Okay. And then that's going to make my gusseted on both sides card. Okay. All right, we have to go in a certain order when we're working with a closure like this because we are going to use brads to attach these pieces through these flaps, and we want to be able to cover the brad prongs and the end of the twine on the inside of the card. So for this card, before we get to the inside decoration at all, we need to work on the outside so that we can get that closure put into place. All right. So let's do that. So this is basically the front of our card when it's closed up. Okay, you've got this surface and we've got this surface that we want to decorate so that we can put those closures through. So as you look at your pattern papers, I'll close up my card here since we're working on the front. You cut, according to your instructions, the plaid paper in 2 sizes. And they're real close, but one's 1/8 of an inch skinnier, less wide than the other, okay? So we want the one that's less wide, all right? This, and you know what, if I flip this over, you can see that? Okay, so we want the one that's less wide. That's the one that fits the front. It's a little bit trimmed because remember this edge doesn't come all the way like the inside. And so then we're just gonna glue that to the front of the card. Now this one is a landscape style card like this is the way it's going to be oriented, but this is plaid paper, so I don't think there's an up and down or anything to it. So that's just your preference. And I would just center it in this space. And you can use, I mean, I like to use my glue. I live in the Houston area near Texas, Katy actually, which is a suburb. And we have a lot of humidity here. And I have just found that even the strongest tacky tape, it's not really a match for our humidity over time, but this glue is wonderful. It's permanent, you know, dries clear, which is definitely a good thing for me. And I just find that longevity-wise, it really, really holds up. So I like to use glue even when I'm just doing paper to paper. But depending on where you live or what adhesives work for you, you might just use a tape runner or something if you wanted to. Okay, so now we have the paper on this panel, and then we're going to use the yellow cardstock flap overlay on the front here. So that's a piece that you die cut out of that long flap enclosure, and it's sized to just fit on there perfectly and leave a little shadow around the perimeter. All of the cardstocks that we're using come from the paper cut, which is my favorite smooth, heavyweight cardstock for use with our ball dies. And sort of to make it easy on ourselves and our retailers, who some of them make these kits as well, is, you know, we try to source all the cardstock and from one company, and then we do, you know, pattern paper from another. So our pattern papers today are from Dare to Be Artsy, and they just have the cutest papers. So if you wanted to make this card exactly again, we've listed in the handout, you know, what the names of those papers are. I can tell you. Sweet as Honey and Honey Bear. But it would look cute with other papers too. So if you know, wanted to substitute, you could on your next card. Alrighty, now we're gonna work on that closure. Okay, so here's what we wanna do. We're gonna need this hexagon to put here because we're gonna put the closure over the top of it. So looking through your materials that you pre-die cut, find one of the yellow hexagons. They're all going to be the same, so it doesn't matter which one you grab. And then if you like the look of ink, you could brush the edges of that with some black ink. Okay. It doesn't have to be with a blending tool like this. It could just be with a foam, or some people just even use their, you know, actual ink pad. Doesn't have to be a small ink pad either. Use a big one, whatever you got. All right, so we're going to use this piece here, kind of in the center. It's not really important where, you know, it goes, more just that you probably want to center it so that your closure will end up being centered. And if you want placement guidance, doesn't have to match mine, but if you want placement guidance, I left a little bit of space between where the flap is when it's closed and the start of the hexagon, and I did a flat edge, you know, versus a point, you know. Okay. Oops. I'm using glue, so it's gonna. Okay, there we go. All right, so before we do any of the other decorations, I'm mainly just worried about getting that closure put on. So first thing we're gonna do, take a pencil or pen, anything that you have handy, and let's find those washers that are done out of the black mirror card. Okay, you should have 2 of them. Those are die cut with that same die set. All right, and then you can lay those in the location where you want them to go and mark the hole. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to basically place it in the center of the hexagon. I'm not doing any measuring, but I'm just by eye kind of placing it in the middle and marking the hole. And then this one opposite that one, you know, wherever you like it. Somewhere here, I guess. Call it good. Okay. And then what we're going to do is stack up spacers over the top of those holes. So another die that comes in, the fourth and final die that comes in that set is your spacers. And they come all 6 of them on one die. And what I asked you to do during prep work is to add some score tape to the back of the black cardstock before die cutting so that these would actually be stickers. So it would be real easy on class day to just pick them up and put them on the project. Oops. You got to watch the little centers tend to flip over and into your adhesive. We're going to put 3. We're going to put a stack of 3 on each of those holes, or marks. They're not holes yet. Now sometimes if I pull it up and it takes the center with it, I'll just press it against my finger to pull the center out. So 3 on each. Or sometimes you can go in and pull the centers out before you pull them off the sheet, and that way you don't have to worry about them flipping over and into the adhesive. So that's another option. You can go in with your paper piercer, tweezers, and pull the centers out first. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And if you ever need little tiny dots for anything, sometimes people use those little tiny dots as eyes, like you wanted to put eyes on something, or centers of really small flowers. You don't have to keep them. I'm just telling you that you have these itty bitty little self-adhesive dots that cut 6 at a time if you ever need them, you know. Alrighty, here's where we're at so far. We've put paper here, hexagon, marked the location for our washer, and stacked up 3 spacers over the top of that mark. Did the same thing over here. We glued on our flap, decorated the flap, marked the location, and put up 3 spacers. And now we need to open this up when we pierce the hole for the brads, because we don't want to pierce all the way through the card. So this one out here, I mean, you want to pierce through the card, but not through the back of the card. You know what I mean? We're just trying to pierce through this front layer. There's the hole. And we're going to use a little white. We know what, I'll pierce the other hole first. Okay. So again, I've opened up my card. So I'm only piercing through the flap. And for this one, we have to get twine through there. So I might, if you, I don't know what kind of tool you're using, but if you can kind of make the hole a little bigger on that one so that you can get the twine through. All right, let's talk about where you find twine and brads. It's in your pre-cuts and extras little baggie. Okay. So you are looking for your piece of baker's twine. Should be about 12 inches ish. Then you're looking for 2 little small white mini brads. So we're not talking about the big brads. Those are used inside the balls, but you should have 2 white mini brads. Now, it can happen, you know, these are kits that were mailed or you picked it up at the store or whatever, you know, hundreds of them were made. It could be that you might find that a brad is missing a prong or something, you know. Hopefully in your stash you might have some white mini brads, but if not, you could substitute another color. So any kind of little small brad that you have in your stash, if for some reason the brads, I mean, don't hold up your project, I guess is what I'm saying, over the brads. If there's a problem with them. Okay, so for the one that's on the hexagon, we're just going to attach our floral washer with one of those white mini brads. We just go down through, open up the prongs on the inside of the card. Okay. on this one, we want to put the twine through first. So if you don't have a needle threader, sometimes I just use a little flosser or something, but you can do this too. You can take your glue out on the end of your twine, roll it between your fingers, and that'll make it kind of a needle tip on the twine. And then it makes it very easy to get it through the spacers and into the inside of the card. And it doesn't matter that that end has glue on it, it's all going to get covered up anyway. And all you want to do is hold enough inside the card, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, you know, enough that it's, you know, going to be substantial when the paper goes over the top to hold it there. But you don't want to lose too much of your twine inside, you know, so I don't know, an inch. And then while holding it, so hold it on the inside, you're going to add the other washer and open up the brad prongs. And brad prongs will also hold that twine inside. Ooh, sorry. Okay. All right, so inevitably when I do closures like this, people usually ask, well, why do you put the twine on first instead of putting the washer and then going through the washer? I think it looks a little cleaner to have the twine extending from underneath the washer, see? And if I'd put the washer on first and put the twine through the hole, then you would see the twine on top of the flower. So I just think it looks cleaner to have it be underneath. And the way this is going to work is you're going to go around like this. Technically it'll be like this to keep your card closed, okay? And we don't have to do any adjustments or anything. I mean, what I did on mine is, once I figured out how long I wanted it to be, I cut and, you know, tied a knot. But we don't have any thickness to our card yet because we haven't put the pop-ups inside. So for now, I would just let it hang, you know. But it is important if you're going to do a closure card like this that you do that first, you know, so that now as we decorate the inside, we can cover those brad prongs. And the piece I would actually think that would be smart to get on right away is the inside flap decoration that we cut out of the honeycomb paper, because we don't want our twine right now is only being held in there by the brad, you know, that's overlapping it a little bit. And so I would suggest just go ahead and get this on now so that we can really shellac that twine down so it doesn't, you know, so that it's permanent. And then we'll worry about the rest of the decorations in a little bit. But for now, let's just put on, and look how pretty the backside is. Maybe you'd rather have the floral. You know, it's up to you. I'm gonna use the honeycomb because that's what my original shows. I'm trying to make it just like the original. But the beauty of these classes is you really are in charge, you know? You can make your own creative choices. Doesn't hurt my feelings any. Actually, one of my favorite things about class, I also teach on Zoom. So on Zoom, you know, the students are there with me live. And oh, I just learned so much from the students. They always have such great ideas, new ways of doing things or looking at things or tips and tricks. You know, sometimes I think the students learn as much from each other as they learn from me in those classes. So they're really fun. And I do love teaching on YouTube and Zoom. I have very much enjoyed this kind of move to more digital, you know, everybody in their preferred space and working at their own speed and all that stuff. I love that. Alrighty. Okay, I know that I may be going a little fast for some of you that are trying to just do this with me on debut day. And I apologize for that, but we are on a little time limit. You know, this is supposed to be a 2-hour class. I think I can stretch it to 2.5 at most, but I really want to get into that ball assembly as quickly as possible. And so, you know, if you're feeling frustrated with me because you're trying to craft with me and maybe I'm going a little fast for you, then this might be the time to just watch the video, you know, now, tonight, as we're doing it, and then just hit it on the replay where you're in control, you know, and you can stop things and, you know, pause me or slow me down or, you know, repeat things or whatever you want to do. So my advice is don't frustrate yourself. This is all supposed to be really fun. So, okay, pep talk over. Let's just do the front of the card. Well, we've got it nice and flat. It'll be easier to decorate it now than when we have the balls inside, you know, and then it's not, it's more rounded from things. So let's go ahead and put this front of the card together. So this is where we use some of the pre-cuts. Our Your Sweet die, we just cut that out of Black Mary card. And then our crosshatch ovals, you've got the cream oval with the crosshatch on it. And this You're Sweet fits really nicely on there. You know, just a little bit hanging over. So step one would be just to attach your Sweet to the oval. And I would use glue for that. Goodness, y'all. I got strings, I got everything here. So yeah, I think You're Sweet. It's a pretty generic little greeting. So maybe this is a birthday card for someone that you think is sweet, or just a little friendship saying hello card, or could it be for, you know, even a graduation or something, you know, hey, you're sweet. Yeah, I could have done a better job. Definitely. So, you know what, I'm going to call it good. It's all right. That's not what somebody's going to be looking at. I don't feel like when someone gets this card, they're going to be paying attention too much to how well I put the greeting on the oval. Because if they were, they would say, not great, Karen, not great. All right, so now we're going to glue that oval to the front of the card. You can make creative choices. You think it looks better over here, knock yourself out. I put it over here, kind of just next to that hexagon where I put it. Like I said, just decorative. Okay, and then let's finish out kind of this honeycomb look on the front of the card. So out of your pre-cuts, we cut for you the bumblebee, or bee, I guess I should say honeybee, I don't know, this is a bumblebee, from the Flutter Charms. So that comes in 3 pieces, or 4, I guess, depending on how your wings are. So the wings were cut out of vellum, and I did request in the kitting instructions that some score tape be on the back, because then they would be stickers. But if yours aren't stickers and they're just cut out of vellum, you can just use a little spot of glue to hold them on. But if they are stickers, they might kind of be still in the vellum like this. So the way that bee charm works is you take the overlay, which we've cut out of the black mirror card, turn it over, add your adhesive. These are in your pre-cuts, by the way. You saw me getting out of the baggie. This isn't one of the required dies, so we pre-cut it for you, or the store did. All right, so I put my adhesive around the stripes of bee on the back, and then I just lay that little yellow egg-looking thing in there. It's just a little bit smaller, so it should be pretty easy to line up. And then that will add the stripes of the bee. Okay. Then, if these are stickers already, peel up the liner. Okay. And put your wings on. Whatever angle and location that you think looks best. Okay, there's not anything but artist choice on that to where your wings go. So the reason we do a lot of our little small embellishments as charm sets, you know, we have a lot of charm sets, is because we do pop-ups. It's fun to be able to dangle those charms off of a pop-up so that when the thing pops up, you've got a little charm dangling. And so for our small embellishment sets, I mostly make them charms. But I do try to design them so that the charm hole can be trimmed off really easily when you want to use them as standalone elements. And so that way you kind of get the best of both worlds. So for this one, we're not going to use it as a charm. But if I did want to use it as a charm, even on a flat project, I could dangle it with a jump ring or some twine or a brad or something. But in our case, we're just going to cut that little charm hole off of the antenna. And now I have a standalone bee. Okay. Then also in your pre-cuts, another piece from the Flutter Charms is the bigger of the 2 flowers that are in that set. And I had them cut that for you out of cream. All right, so we try to limit the pre-cuts on these classes. We really want the students to be doing most of the prep work with the required dies, and I take great pride in trying to figure out how I can use the pieces out of the required dies for most of the decorations. I mean, I tell you, it's like a fun challenge. So on this one, what I thought I would do is I would have you use a circle that comes out of our mini ball pop-up, since that's one of the dies you own, to make the center circle for the flower. So I had the store or us pre-cut the flower for you, but then they didn't pre-cut a circle. I had you do that with the shiny paper out of black. Okay, so we're going to add that to your flower, and look how nicely it fits. It wasn't by design, but cool that it worked out that way. Okay, so we've got those two embellishments ready to go. And then another embellishment, this one comes in the mini bow add-ons, is that you have a two-piece mushroom. I had you cut the mushroom itself out of brown, and then I had you cut the mushroom overlay out of pink, and I had you put this packing tape over the top before die cutting so that that pink is actually shiny. So that's an overlay. I can add my adhesive to the back. And then just line that up over the top. It'll line up perfectly. Once again, if you're an inky sort of person and have some brown ink, might look nice just to add a little brown ink to the stem. And then another optional, completely optional, I'll show you how it looks so you can decide if you want to do it. I kind of think it looks neat on some mushrooms to actually trace around the inside of the holes to give them a little inside edging. See that? So here's how I did it. I took a black pen. Once my glue set up so that it's definitely, you know, not going to slide on me, then I just went in and traced onto the brown cardstock, but just around the edges of all the openings. So just kind of tracing the inside edge of the pink onto the brown. And you will be amazed, or maybe not, I'm always amazed, at how much extra dimension and texture that gives to your little mushrooms to do that. It only takes a second. So anyway, I like to do it. Alrighty, now this is what I was kind of saying about like trying to use the pieces that are in the required sets as much as possible. So, you know, even though the Flutter Charms comes with this really cool little small honeycomb, you know, for the scale of this card, and also just because you have a hexagon die, it's in your mini ball pop-up, I thought it would be better to have you cut bigger hexagons that we could then use to make our own little honeycomb pattern. So you are looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 more. You probably have 5 more in your kit because one of them's for one of the balls, but find 4 to be used for this decoration. So it has a spot on it, so I'm putting it back. That's the thing about these classes, is they have so many pieces in them. At the beginning, it's like, ooh, hard to find them, and then by the end, you know, you're down to a few. Okay, so once again, if you want to brush some black ink around those hexagons, there are 4 of them. And we are going to do these spotlight classes. We did one in 2022, we're going to do 4. So we did one in March. This one's our second. We're going to do once a quarter. This is June. So we'll do it again in September. And it'll be the same sort of thing where there'll be like, you know, 3 required dies. You can buy either just the papers if you already have the dies, or, you know, you can bundle them with the dies, buy them from our website, buy them from a participating store. And then just like this, the class will be YouTube based. So 2 more for this year, for 2022. Okay, so now I'm going to start making my little honeycomb and decorating it with these pieces. Okay, so the secret to kind of making it look like a honeycomb is basically just to keep all the hexagons going the same way, so they're all going to have flat bottoms. You know, it doesn't matter which bottom, they're all the same around, but versus a point, you know, you're not going to put it on like this, you're going to put it on straight. And then try to keep an even distance. Ooh, it's hard to hold with that. Try to keep an even distance from the next one. So if I'm going to put this one on next, I'm going to put it, so this distance right here is what I'm talking about. See, I want the corners to kind of come to there, and then go to the next one. Okay, and I'm going to go off this direction, and I'm going to try and match that distance so it looks the same. I mean, again, I wouldn't get out any rulers or anything like that. This is a handmade card after all, but it's going to look more authentic if you try and keep things straight and evenly spaced. Okay. Last one, going right here. See that? Okay, well, it looks like I tucked that mushroom under the edge of this one. So if I had, yeah, mine hasn't set up yet. So if you want to tuck your mushroom behind that hexagon, I'm going to try and get it in before your glue sets up. Now, sometimes students will ask me, well, could I use pop dots in some of these items in the front? I mean, yeah, you can if you don't care about the thickness of the card, but look at how thick it is already. So if you're planning on mailing this card, I would probably keep these items flat. If you're planning on hand delivering it, then yeah, I guess you could explore having some extra dimension by, you know, popping things up on the front of the card. All right, B, I'm going to put it between... I'm not going to put any adhesive behind the vellum because they already have adhesive on them, but even if I didn't and I had just glued them, I wouldn't put glue behind the wings so that they can, they'd be fine if they weren't glued down. But if they have the self-adhesive on them, then you can just press them down. Like this. Okay. And then the flower. That's going to go here. All right, front of card, done. What are we doing on time? I'm looking at the timer on my camera. It looks like we're probably about 40 minutes in, so that's pretty good time. It's pretty good time. We'll have time to make those pop-up balls and get it done. All right, we're going to move now to the inside of the card and start working first on our background and then on the pop-up balls. Okay. Let me open this up. You know what? I don't think there's room for them both to share the spotlight, so I'm going to just show you what I'm doing over here. Okay, let's find papers. So we want to use the one that's the Your Beautiful, Sweetest Honey, Be My Honey. That one's going to be on this inside panel. Now remember, this card gets opened, bottom flap, so it says You're Sweet This Way, opens it up. So when you're orienting this paper, it should be facing you with flap at the bottom. All right. Otherwise, if you were to decorate it like this, you would be ever so upset when you close your card up and it something was upside down. So, okay, so we're going to glue this here. We're going to glue this one here. And I would just center on both of them. Well, it's kind of up to you. I think on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these three edges and make those even, and I'm not going to bother with where that puts it in terms of this inside edge. Now, if you are completely new to me, Karen Burniston, or to our company, KB Riley, let me tell you, we've been in business since 2017. It is me and a friend of mine, Tanya Kostanek, who also owns Riley and Company. So that's kind of the Riley and the KB Riley thing, is that we went into business together to start a new company to focus on my die set. So I've been a die designer for many years. I started out as a licensed designer for some other companies and then was ready to kind of go out on my own, but was very, very pleased that Tanya was looking for another opportunity so that we could kind of partner up. And I really focus on a, sort of the creative side of the business, you know, designing the products and doing the education and, you know, design team stuff and all that. I do the creative side of the business kind of from Texas. And then our home office is in Kansas, which is where Tanya is. And that's where the product ships from. So our warehouse is in Kansas. And some of our staff, the rest of us, so we don't have a huge staff. That makes us sound really big. We're not big. But we have a small group of dedicated employees, and we appreciate them very much. But we are a die company. I mean, we make dies. We really do. That's our main focus is dies. That's what I like to design. That's what I seem to be the best at. I've been doing for a long time. So, you know, we're pretty specialty. We do dies. They're not all pop-ups, but, you know, that's my specialty is pop-ups. Okay, so when I was doing my prep work, when I cut this UPC strip, I got, you know, a little bit of the paper in it. And I remember at the time I was doing the prep work, I thought, well, no big deal because I'll just tuck it under the other piece and then you won't see it. But then I remembered that I was going to actually have this one over that one to cover up those little partial black spots. So I think what I'm going to do, I know this is shocking, but I'm just going to trim mine up with a pair of scissors. So if you find yourself in the same position, you could get your trimmer out, but it's hard to shave an ever little bit of paper off. I think it's easier to do with scissors. You know, again, I just feel confident in saying that nobody's going to judge the straightness of my cutting. Okay, there, now I've got it. All right, so these pieces, they're just decorative. Let me show you in my card here. It was just kind of to break up a little bit of the plaid paper. So let's see, did you want a distance? I wasn't planning on measuring this. I don't even think I put a measurement in the thing, but, or maybe I did. Okay, so it looks to me like there's about an inch from basically the fold, or what's this distance? I don't know, 3/4 of plaid paper showing ish, so something like this. Okay, it's not important, it's just decorative, but if you want it to match mine. All right, so about there. I mean, that looks good to me. And then this one, I'm gonna be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Shellacky, generous with my glue on this piece, because I do want to not have, when the gnomes spin around, I don't want their shoes to try and slide underneath this piece, you know? So I'm gonna do a pretty good job of actually shellacking it down to the page versus just putting a little bit of adhesive on it. Okay, so question is, can I get that straight? Yeah, ish. Okay. Inside of our card is ready to go, and we are ready to put together some mini balls and turn them into gnomes. So let's go ahead and set this aside. Okay, and let's start working on our mini ball pop-ups. Let's look at these cuties here. All right, so each ball, and we're gonna make 4 of them, because I have to make this one, this one, this one, and this one. And each ball is made in 2 halves, you know, which you probably noticed as you were doing all your die cutting and stuff, that you ended up with 8 of these ball halves. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and then at the time that you cut each of these ball halves, I had you cut your inside trapezoids. So that was a little set of trapezoids that's connected together, so it's a little bit larger. These ones are a little bit larger than the decorator ones that come in the set. And I had you cut a one for out of the same color of each one. Okay, so some of those are going to be easy to find, like the black ones. We don't even have any, that's all we have, is we just have those larger trapezoids. You know what I'm, yeah. Sorry. I just like had this realization of like, oh wait, maybe you didn't cut enough, but we did, because we have 2 for each ball half. So see, each ball half is going to get a set of interior trapezoids. So brown, we have both sizes, I think. So we have to, when you're looking through your trapezoids, look for the ones that are larger. So you can lay them over the top of each other. Okay, and I can tell, I get real close so you can see that, but this is the small one. These two are big. So those two go there. All right, same thing with the pink ones. You may have to keep adding, you know, trapezoids to your stack until you find the ones. Okay, so there's a small one. I don't need that one. That means this one's a large one. That one's a small one. Here's two large ones. Here's two large ones. Okay. Got this one, this one. So I'm just missing for these two blue ones. Those are decorator. All right, once again, we have them in both sides. That's what I was saying when I was doing the prep work video. I was actually kind of wondering about whether I should have had you mark those. But I mean, they're not that much different in size. Just a smidge, but you want the bigger ones for this step. Okay. Nope, nope, that's not a bigger one. That's a big one. Yes. Oh, I almost got it. And yes, I think these are all the big ones. Yep. All right, now we've got what we need to, oh no, I got the cream one, sorry. Just have to find the cream color. There's one. And two. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. On each one of these ball halves, we are going to work the folds, but you know what, first thing we really need to do is we really need to mark that we have them all oriented the exact same way. Okay, so when you look at the ball half that you have die cut, it is going to be much easier to see the score lines on one side versus the other. On the other side, it's like you can't see them at all. Okay, you want the side where you can see the score lines really easily. And then what you really want to do is stack up all of them in the exact same way. Okay, I mean, so that everything lines up exactly perfectly. That way you know you have them all oriented the same way, because that is important for the function of the ball dies, is that you start from identical ball halves, okay? So what you don't want to do is you don't want to like flip one over, because then when you tried to connect those two together, they wouldn't work. They have to start so that they are all absolutely identical. See, every single thing lines up, and I can see the pretty score lines from the top here on all the way through the stack. And then what I'm going to do is just going to go through and mark an X near that center hole on all of them. We will put a decorator die over the top of it, so it does not matter. It will never be seen. That way I don't have to worry about getting one flipped over while I'm assembling. So well worth doing that at the start. All right, here's what we're going to do. For each one with the X up, you know, the mark that we just made, we're going to look for the 4 triangle tabs that fold into the ball and reinforce it. So see the sides that have a little hole out at the end, they have these little flaps on the side, and those flaps fold away from the X, so towards the inside of the ball, to reinforce those sides, because these are the sides that hold the rubber band. So we would like those to be very, very strong. So inside on the, you can see that those have been folded in, and now I actually want to shellac those down so that they are, you know, used to secure that side and make it stronger. I really, 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 really recommend glue for this. You want a strong, dry, clear glue. And not one that dries and is still tacky. So I know some people like, there's certain glues where, you know, after they dry, they're not, they're a little tacky. They're not, you definitely don't want glue that dries and then is still tacky. Okay, so I'm going to glue those down. Okay. And we have 8 of these to do, so we might as well just go through and assembly line that process while it's fresh in your mind for all of them. So I'm going to set that one aside and go to the next one. We have 8 of them to do. So you can pull the little confetti out of the holes and things, but you're looking for those flaps to fold to the back. Okay. And then on the back, you're going to use your glue and shellac them down. So the mini ball that we're using is actually the smallest, the newest and the smallest of our 3 pop-up ball dies. So we actually first came out with the surprise ball, and it would collapse down and be hidden by a 5-inch, you know, at least a 5-inch wide card. And that was very popular. And then people started fashioning all sorts of animals and characters and things out of them by stacking 2 surprise balls together. And so we got lots of requests like, well, could you make it in a smaller size? So if we stacked, you know, 2 different size balls together, the surprise and the smaller one, then we could have, you know, the head be smaller than the body. So we came out with the bitty ball. So the bitty ball was our second ball. And it will collapse down into a 4 1/4, like an A2 size card. So it's about 20% smaller than the surprise ball. And boy, and then some add-ons and things, you know, be able to make different animals and characters and things out of it. So that has been a very, very, very popular series of dies for us. And then slimline cards became really popular. And people started asking, well, hey, can we have an even smaller one that would fit down into like a 3 1/2 or a 4-inch size so that we could use these balls in slimlines and then we can still stack it with the other ones? And I said, sure. So the mini ball is the answer to that request. So the mini ball is the smallest one. It will collapse down into a 3 1/2 inch if you're not adding add-ons to it. But if you're adding add-ons like noses and arms and things that, you know, stick out further than the ball, like mustaches and noses and hands and stuff, well, then you gotta have 4 inches. But you can always go into, you know, a bigger card too. But I've kind of promised the design team, I was like, hey, I think 3's enough. Like, I hope they don't start making little micro, you know, 2-inch wide cards. And then I hope, you know, I mean, at a certain point, you know, they become impossible to assemble because they get too small. So this is it. This is it. Three ball sizes. We think that's plenty. But we'll do more add-ons and things. So you'll just keep looking and there'll be new, you know, dies to turn them into different things. We really think of these dies as just sort of foundational, you know, foundational dies. And then we'll do add-on sets to give them new, exciting looks. You know, these dies are an investment, but they're like a tool, you know, it's not a consumable product. So, you know, we feel like once you've sort of invested in your foundational die, then it's great to bring out new dies that, you know, give it a new look. Get the most bang out of those dies that you purchase. All right, so I am just going through, in case anybody just popped into the room, I'm going through and folding in first the little wings on the reinforced sides of my mini ball pop-up. And we have 8 of them to do, so we're just assembly lining that and doing it all at the same time. And like I said, I'm using my Lineco neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle, and I do want to shellac those wings down. The goal is not to be dainty with your adhesive on these, is to really have them be structural. Okay. Getting there. 3 more. Each time I pick one up, I just pull the little, any paper that was stuck in any of the holes, I just pull it out. You can see it gathering on my work surface here. Now the first pop-up ball die I designed was even bigger than the surprise ball. It needed a 6-inch card, and it was way back when I was a licensed designer for Sizzix. And it was back when we did steel rule dies. So those are the thick dies that have the plastic backing and, you know, that are steel. I mean, they can, well, I guess these are steel too, but they're, they can cut through chipboard and wood and things like that. It was constructed a little differently. You actually had to cut multiple pieces and kind of glue them together. And but that was like, ooh, date myself here. I'm gonna think that was probably 2008, 2009, something like that, when that die came out. So one thing that's been fun about being a designer for sort of my own company, Tanya and my company, is that I can revisit some of those early dies, you know, that I designed when I was a licensed designer, sort of as technology has improved for dies, and maybe I have improved probably as a designer, or I've learned from, you know, students and customers things that they really like, and then I can revisit those older designs and come out with newer, more exciting versions of them. So that's been fun. And we get requests. People that knew me from way back when, or knew my work from way back when, they'll say, are you ever going to re-release the whatever die? Sometimes the answer is no. But sometimes it was a good one. Oh. I'll bring it back out. Sometimes people ask, how often do you release new dies? And we are trying to be, me on my end, more disciplined about that, so that we are actually releasing like 4, you know, in previous years we've done kind of 3 releases a year, but sometimes that made like the summer release 16 or 20 dies, and that was kind of a lot for people all at once. So this year we're trying to do smaller releases, you know, like 8 to 10 dies sort of once a quarter, so making it more manageable for people. So like this little release, there's only 8 dies in the release. So people, we have had good feedback about that too, about keeping those little release sizes a little smaller so people can, they are so overwhelmed with so many choices all at once, you know, and the price tag is a little more manageable to some people, you know, they really want to own them all. Alrighty, so now we can start adding our inside trapezoid. So what's an inside trapezoid? Those ones that we cut with a little bit bigger size, those are actually designed to then further reinforce those rubber band sides. This is where the rubber band is going to go. So that instead of these, where we glue these flaps down, instead of them being double thick, they're actually going to end up being triple thick. And that is so we can use 2 rubber bands in each ball. So that's kind of something I learned over time, that 2 rubber bands was my favorite, but then I needed a little bit more strength than just these little triangles would do. So, you know, I kind of changed the assembly, the best practices assembly of the balls to include adding a trapezoid on the inside over the top of those flaps to make those sides triple thick. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So that's your little stack of your inside trapezoids. Those are going to be used inside these balls to hold down those flaps and reinforce those sides. And once again, don't spare your glue. This is meant for really reinforcing. Now you may have noticed that I lifted up, you know, I found the fold at the bottom just to make sure that I keep that decorator trapezoid, or that inside trapezoid, I guess, you know, within the limits of the trapezoid, because I still have to fold this at the bottom and later on at the top. So see, I want to make sure that that inside trapezoid stays within that trapezoid area. And if it is easier for you from the outside where your X is to find the fold next to the trapezoid top and bottom, you can then go inside and then you'll have that location, you know, for that decorator trapezoid. Okay. So hopefully it is not too distracting for me to just chit chat at you while we're doing this kind of busy work. We're going to do that on all of them. So all 8 of them are going to get those 2 decorator, I'd say decorator, inside trapezoids. I mean, they don't even have to be the color of the ball because you don't see them inside. They're just meant for reinforcing. It's just easier to cut them at the same time, so that's why I usually make them the same color as the ball. Whatever color I use for the ball half. So anyway, let's see. What other questions would somebody maybe ask me if we were live and you could ask me questions? Sometimes people ask, like, do you dream this stuff up? You know, like in bed or whatever. And not really. I mean, I'm not really known to dream about pop-ups too much, but I do sometimes get ideas when I'm in the shower, of all places. I will get die ideas in there. And I draw them on the computer. You know, I use, that's one thing. I have an engineering degree. That's my college education is civil engineering, which I didn't do very much of. But things I learned in college that certainly have helped me in this career as more of a paper engineer was the ability to like CAD draft things, you know, that I learned in school. Actually had a job CAD drafting for a company kind of on the weekends during college. So I learned a lot about CAD. So being able to draw geometrically on the computer is like a really nice skill to have when you're designing pop-ups. And so that has served me very well. Is, you know, I know I don't draw in CAD anymore. I used to in the beginning. Now I just draw in Illustrator. But being able to, you know, offset things and, you know, subdivide and, I don't know, space things around a path, you know, all those sort of things that you do, which are a lot easier to do when the computer just sort of calculates the angle for you. So yeah, so I draw on the computer. And actually the pop-ups normally, unless the mechanism is giving me fits or something, the pop-ups usually go together faster ultimately than the decorator dies and stuff. Like when I go to draw butterflies and dragonflies and bees and things, those take longer because, you know, I'm an engineer, not a trained artist or anything, so I have to spend a lot of time going, does that look like a butterfly? Which is probably another reason why I mostly stick with dies and not too much like really detailed things like stamps and things where it's just a little outside of my, I won't say my abilities, but just, you know, it's like a lot of really, really good artists out there drawing some really, really cool stamps. I think we all just kind of have to know what our, you know, what our strengths are. And for me, I feel like I'm pretty strong at designing dies. I like to do it. I love to do it, actually. So that's kind of where I want to focus my energies, I guess, on that. So anybody that has just kind of like popped into the room, we're making a double gnome card. Right now we're doing the busy work of getting our pop-up ball halves reinforced with inside trapezoids, so that when we assemble them, they are actually strong enough to hold 2 rubber bands in each ball, which will help them pop up like, you know, really impressively. So each one of these balls has 2 rubber bands in it. So you know, you just get a really nice strong spring that way. Okay, I'm getting there. I have no idea if I'm going at about the pace of everybody else or not. Now, one thing that I guess that's really only an issue for the people that are watching this on the debut and trying to do it live with me on its first airing. But once it gets reposted to YouTube tomorrow, then you're in control, you know, because you can just pause it, slow it down, repeat it, speed me up, slow me down. So we do love doing these on YouTube for that reason. Okay, one more. Okay, I think we got it. All right, so now we have 8 ball halves that have the flaps folded in and the decorator, I keep saying decorator, inside trapezoids in place. Okay, so kind of keeping with our sort of assembly line nature of this, let's flip them all over so that we can work the folds from the front side, from the X side. So if you've been doing what I've been doing, which is working the folds for the ones that get the trapezoid inside, then you may have already worked these 2 folds. But now let's go around and do the other 4. So out on the end, there's going to be a half tab, which is going to fold to the inside, and then at the base, then it's going to fold to the inside. Now, one thing I like to tell people about these folds on the ball dies is you do not have to, in fact, I really recommend that you don't. Fold it, go back and forth a few times, get your bone folder out. I mean, we're not talking about needing a really crisp or loose fold here. We're just talking about basically the level that you would do with your finger, you know, like I said, finger fold, like that. It doesn't need to be worked any harder than that, because this is the finished popped up location. In other words, those folds are never going to go further than that. We really wouldn't want them to, you know, we wouldn't want the ball to collapse inwards or anything. So just, you know, don't overfold. I guess what I'm saying, just with your fingers, go around, work all the folds. No need to do any more than that. So see around the base, I just go around, find those folds. It's all I need. Okay, and then on the outside, folding. Now the outside ones where the tabs are, you can give those more of a pinch if you want. But these 6 around the hexagon, they really don't need to be any more than just easily fold to that location. Oh. Ooh. Okay, is that one? So for these ball dies, I really, really do like 100-pound smooth cardstock for the balls themselves. So as you can imagine, if this were textured, then when you go to fold this, if it happens to line up with the texture, it might be a little crooked, or it might be hard to see the fold, or you just might not get as crisp and nice of folds if you end up using textured cardstock. Have I made balls out of textured cardstock? Sure. You know, if that's what you have is some heavyweight and it's textured, go for it. But if you have the choice, I would go for a heavyweight smooth cardstock. And it could be that you buy one color, black or white maybe, cream. You know, buy yourself a ream of 100-pound smooth cardstock. And maybe you're always going to make your balls out of that and then just use the decorator pieces to change the color to whatever. Because the decorator pieces don't have to be the 100-pound, just the structure of the ball itself. Another option you have is we sell exact packs, which are 6x6 packs of this paper. And we sell those kind of curated to match whatever, you know, the add-on set is or whatever, you know. So there's an exact pack that comes with all the colors to do owls and birds, and that one's, you know, made for mini ball pop-up. And then there's another one for the ones we're doing today, you know, that comes with all these colors in the exact pack, you know, that 100-pound smooth. In fact, a lot of these same colors, because we're doing that die set today. So, you know, that's another option to get those exact packs if you want to have a variety of options. Okay, so let's start figuring out which ones go where. So you can make a ball out of 2 different colors, and that's particularly useful when you're making gnomes, because like in the case of the top half of the ball, maybe it's going to be the hat color, and then the bottom half of the ball is going to be, you know, the skin color, or in this case, the top will be the hat and the bottom will be the hair color. So, you know, you can really customize them that way. So let's start with the girl gnome, the one that has the braids. All right, so she's going to be pink connected to cream. That's going to be her head. And then the bottom is going to be pink connected to blue. Okay, oops, you can see that, can you? Pink connected to blue. And then for the bearded gnome, the guy, he's going to be blue connected to brown for the head, and then the black connected to black for the body. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the two halves of the ball together. So let's work on her head. Her head is going to be pink on the top, cream on the bottom. First thing you do is you find a side that holds the rubber band that has the cut and the hole, and you put those two opposite each other and you see if everything lines up if you were to glue them together. And look here, the holes would line up but the cuts would not. So that means I have to take one and flip it the other way. And then see, now the cut and the hole lines up. So it's very important that when you kiss connection glue these together, that you do so that both the hole and the cut will line up on the inside. So once again, we want this strong. This has to hold two rubber bands without falling apart. So I'm going to put, well, I probably should put the glue on the pink side so you can see it better, but I put it on the cream side. But anyway, so I just kind of spread it out with my fingers a little bit so that there's glue everywhere. And then I want to kiss connection, glue that to the pink one. For this first time, it's easy because I can go inside the ball and line up the corners really perfectly, and you can see, I can see that those holes are lining up and that cut's lining up. From the outside, I can kind of pinch it down where I just move the shelf, you know, to one side or the other, you know, to be able to give it a good press, because what we would like to see is this, those two connected together where the corners are perfect all the way around, shellacked them together. Okay. All right, let's set that aside and go to the one that's going to be her body. So that one's going to be pink on the top, blue on the bottom. Once again, I chose poorly, so I got to flip one around. And then now if I glue those together, they both the hole and the cut will line up. So I put my adhesive all over. I really like this shellac together, so I like to get my glue kind of spread out to where it'll go everywhere. Okay, once again on the inside. Ooh, all right, I didn't do a super good job there, so let me, where the glue sets up, let me see if I can move it. That is why I like glue too, because you can kind of slide it around. All right, let me do my outside pinching that I like to do. All right, okay. All right, then let's just continue on and get the ball's halves put together for the other gnome. All right, so we've got brown and blue. This time I chose really well on those. Picked right the first time. Put my adhesive all over the tab. Get it out to the corners there. Just looking at all the corners. Really getting it. And then I love this thing where I move it to one side and then the other. And then if the glue squishes out a little bit, no biggie, it's going to dry clear. You know, that's why I like dries clear glue. All right, last one, black to black. So chose poorly again, so 3 out of 4. Inside. Alrighty. This is going to start to go a little quicker. This is kind of the busy part of putting the balls together, is getting all the inside reinforcing glue down and things like that. That's a little busy. But then now we're going to move a little faster, I think, going forward, just to be able to get it done. Okay, I want to put hexagons on all of the tops of these balls. Okay, so let's put these in the right order. Okay, so she's going to be basically like this, and he's going to be basically like this. Okay, so head, body. So the hat at the very top, you want that to be the same color as the ball. We're not actually going to do a contrasting color on the hats. We're going to do the same. And then the same thing for the bottom of the head. You're never going to see those hexagons. They're going to be hidden, but they are good for the strength of the ball, so I still like to put them on. So for this one, it's going to be the autumn, the kind of shiny beige color is going to go there. And then you should have a brown one to go on this one. Then down here to his body and her body, now we're going to switch to the hexagon's going to match the color or whatever. So even though you don't see it, that's just how I had to cut them. So he has a yellow shirt and blue pants. So there should be a yellow hexagon. Let's see. Here's blue. Blue's going to be down here. I mean, these ones don't matter as much because, like I said, you don't see them. So I guess it really wouldn't matter if you even matched what I'm doing, but I'll just do it the way I did it. Okay, I feel like there's a hexagon missing out of mine, which makes me wonder if I missed one in the instructions or if I just dropped one when I was doing it. Okay, what color is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be yellow. Fairly sure I did have the right number of yellow hexagons. Okay, I found it. So that's going to go here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and glue those on now. And since there is a hole in the middle, feel free to just kind of keep your glue around the outside. It wouldn't matter, but just so you don't have to worry about the glue seeping through the hole. And okay, so for her body, she's got a pink shirt and blue pants, so it's the lighter pink on the hexagon and the lighter blue on the hexagon. All right, then for his shirt and pants, it's yellow on the shirt and blue on the pants. The darker blue, blue raspberry. And if you got some of these mixed up, honestly, it wouldn't matter. The only ones you see are the ones at the very top. The ones at the very top, don't mix those up unless you're making a creative choice. But on the others, it wouldn't matter. All right, so gluing down the hexagon for the head. And that's going to leave a little shadow, as I'm sure you have figured out. I think these gnomes will make great little Christmas gnomes too. So think about doing some pattern papers maybe on the decorator pieces with some fun Christmas plaids. Wouldn't that be adorable? You do not have to use your heavyweight cardstock for the decorator pieces. So we're using it today. We're using the cardstock for the decorator pieces, but you don't have to. It's not structural at that point. It's just decorative. So if you'd rather use pattern papers and things, you can. But I do suggest that you do put decorator pieces on them because that will help the structure of it. They're going to perform better if they do have those decorator pieces on them. Even if they're out of pattern paper, they just add a little bit of extra strength. Okay, the reason I wanted to get these hexagons on so that we could take the two body pieces and get our bigger brads through for the, for them to attach to our card later on a brad. All right, so now's the time to do that. So what you need is out of your pre-cuts, you should have two brads. I don't have any idea what color they are, and it doesn't even make a difference. So mine happen to be kind of brass brads. You probably have silver. I know the ones that came from our website, I think, had silver. I mean, they could even be the different colors from each other. It doesn't matter. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the two body balls. Okay, so for the girl gnome, it's going to be pink and blue. And the pink is the shirt and the blue is the pants. So the blue is where we need the hole. So we're going to flip that over, pierce a hole, because we've added the decorator piece, pierce a hole through just the blue side, all right? And then from inside the ball, we're going to put the brad. Your brad might be silver, might be another color, and open the brads up on the outside, okay? Then we need to do the same thing for the black ball. In this case, we're going to go through the blue side because that's the pants. That's the base. Okay, here we go. And open up your prongs. Okay, you're never going to see those brads. Those brads are completely hidden in the finished card, so the color of them doesn't matter. Okay. All right, now we can continue on with our decorating. So let's go ahead and the main thing I like to get on is I like to get the decorator pieces on the trapezoids around each piece so that we can assemble the ball and have them be, you know, the proper amount of strength, I guess, so to speak, that they already have their decorator pieces on. Then that helps when you're putting it together, that you can make sure that the tension of your rubber bands is really good for those because you've already got the decorator pieces on. So as you can imagine, if you didn't have your decorator pieces on, and then you went and assembled it and you kind of adjusted your tension and maybe it wasn't as tight as it needed to be once you made each side stronger, if that makes sense. So I do like to go ahead and put the decorator trapezoids on. We're going to start just with these two bottom balls. So the pink blue that has the brad and the black that has the brad. We're going to do the light blue is going to go around here for her pants. And then for her shirt, she's going to get the light pink. So you need to find 6 trapezoids of those colors to go on there. So the lighter pink for her shirt, not the darker pink, the lighter pink. Cotton candy, I think it's called. Okay. And then for his pants are going to be the darker, the colors that you see here. So the darker blue is going to be his pants, and making sure those are all the smaller size. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, you should have 6. And then yellow up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now on the yellow, actually, though, you do have to make sure you got small ones because we cut a couple big ones for the hair. So see, you want small ones. If you've got any big ones in your stack, make sure you go down to where they're all the small ones. We're going to use the big ones on the head of the girl gnome. The smalls for the shirt. We want smalls. Okay, found them. Alrighty, let's start adding them. And then we can put these balls together and then we'll go and do the heads after that. How are we doing with time? Okay. In each case, they're just going to leave a little shadow around the outside. Okay. Trying to think what other interesting anecdotes I have. I don't know that I have very many. So I live in Katy, Texas. Lived here since 2010, so I'm not a native. I actually grew up in, I'm not a native Texan. I grew up in Oregon, of all places, and I went to school at Tulane in New Orleans, which is where I met my husband, John. Graduated together. And then we moved to Colorado, where we lived for many years, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Love Colorado. Any students from Colorado? Jealous. But then John got transferred. He's also an engineer. He does, you know, actual in the field engineering, not paper engineering. So he got transferred to Houston. So here we came. And it was a bit of a shock moving to Texas from Colorado. It was very different. We'd lived in the South before because we lived in New Orleans for so many years, but yeah, but then Texas is its own thing. Like, so I know probably a lot of my students are from Texas, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but a lot of people may not be from Texas. I don't know where everyone's from. If you ever watched that show Friday Night Lights about high school football is a big deal in Texas. And I can't say that high school football was it wasn't not a big deal in the other places I've lived, but it was a bigger deal in Texas. You know, it was really big. And so I was a band mom. My kids was in band, so But they've graduated now. So, but like, yeah, like homecoming mums, like we didn't have those. Where I grew up in Oregon, and when I lived in Colorado, New Orleans, stuff we didn't. Well, maybe I don't know about New Orleans actually because my kids were so small. Okay, so now move on to this one. So those were. We were used to the, well, I can't say we were used to the heat, but I mean, we had lived, you know, in New Orleans before, so we were used to hurricanes and high humidity and, you know, really, really pounding rain and stuff like that. We were used to that. But there was other, yeah. People are really friendly in the South, which is nice. People really do, you know, help each other out after hurricanes and storms and things like that. People are very nice in the South. But Texans, man, its own special thing. The thing about making our ball dies too is, I mean, they're not hard, but they take a little time, you know. And sometimes though, if, you know, I just want to get a jump on them or something like that, I will sometimes just sit in front of the TV and, you know, die cut and decorate, you know, some of the pop-up balls like this. Just kind of have them ready for a project later on. And that's something you could do. Or if you really, really wanted to make some like impressive holiday cards, and you'd have to get busy on them early, but you could make the balls for whatever character thing you wanted, you know. You could kind of work on them over time. So now it's nice that the die sets come with 6 of these little trapezoid dies plus 1 hexagon. And unless your paper is really thick, you can cut through 2 layers at once. So what you can do is use those 7 dies, you know, these 6 and that 1, cut through 2 layers, and then you have all of the trapezoids and hexagons for your ball in one shot. That's if they're all the same color on both sides. So if you were doing an animal, like a green animal, an alligator or frog or something, you know, where you want a dark green, light green, for instance, you could do all of the decorator pieces at one time. Okay, we have this. Flip that around. Okay. All right. I'm kind of assuming maybe, since I didn't speed myself up, that people are probably going about the same pace as me, hopefully. I might be a little faster because I do these all the time, but I'm trying not to speed through it, but also being mindful of time. When we go to decorate the head, we have a few pieces and stuff that are different than decorator trapezoids to put on. So let's do these, you know, together. So even if you were still doing this, I would stop that if you're crafting with me and move on to this, and you can come back and finish those later. Okay, so I had you cut inside trapezoids for the girl bottom half of her head. And so since they cut 2 at a time, you ended up with 4 of the larger yellows, but really technically you're only going to need 3, okay? So one of those is extra. And then I also had you cut inside trapezoids for faces with that kind of shiny autumn hay beige color. All right, so there's going to be 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, okay, and then 1 here for him. But so you're going to end up with 1 extra of that color as well, and that's just because those are cut in 2s. So you ended up, you know, you needed 5 of these and 3 of these. Okay, and then these are going to go here. Lay these out. So you can use your inside trapezoids on the outside of the ball when you want less of a shadow showing. So with your normal trapezoid, you get a pretty good little shadow around the outside of your original ball color. But when you're trying to do something like, you know, take a hat color and turn it into skin, or take cream and turn it into hair, you know, you may want to use the larger decorator pieces for that. The rest of the ball on the top is just going to get the same color pink. That's her hat. So there should be 5 of those. 4. And 1 more it'll turn up. 5. Okay, and then for this one, it's going to be blue all the way around except for that front one that gets the autumn hay. Okay, so 5 of those. And then on the beard, we're going to use these front 3 are going to get upper beards. Okay, so it's going to be this and this. So we'll cut them, or we'll cut the 2 side ones. But so I'm just getting them out and showing you. And then that's why you only have 3 of the brown trapezoids, because they go just around this bottom half. So, oh, so you can't see that. All right. So if you want to do it with me, I'm going to start with this one over here. So we're doing the connected section is going to be her face. So these 3 yellows that go on this outside section here are actually going to be the back of her head, which we're going to turn into the hair color. So that's why those are going to be that. And then we want to make sure that we actually don't, it reminds me, let's not put on our decorator trapezoids for these 2, because we need to get the braids put on first so that they can be covered partially by the trapezoid. Okay, so we're going to leave these 2 off until we put the balls together, and then we'll put them on. But the rest of them can go on now. True, that is true. Okay. Oh, it actually fell glue side up for one. I mean, glue side up for once. So I kind of mentioned in the prep work video too, you know, that you can always, of course, adjust skin color if you have a different vision. That's the nice thing about die cutting, is that you are not, you are always in control of how, how you do it. And what you choose. So you could definitely, or, you know, if you need to, we'll change things. All right, when we go to put this one on the top half, instead of centering it, I'm actually going to put it near the bottom so that it goes right to the seam there on that one. All right. Because I'd really rather not have too much pink showing in the middle of her face, you know. And this one's going to go here. Oops. Slip a little bit. Okay, we're saving 2 for these 2 to put to after the balls are assembled. And, oh shoot, I just put the glue on the wrong side of that one. And don't put the beard pieces on yet either over there if you're faster than me, because I want to show you how to trim the 2 side ones so that they fit and they don't get all bunched up. Another little, I have to pull it out and show you the other little gnome card. I think you are now getting treated to my dog Lucy, who would really, really, really like to have her dinner. So she is whining outside the door asking for dinner. Right, okay, so when we do these beards, well, let's see, let's start. I'm going to put the piece on for the upper half of his face. You see very little of this, but once again, I'm going to go to the seam with it, like I did for the girl gnome. Okay, and then right below that is going to go his upper beard. Now, what I would do with this one is line it up with the bottom edge and leave extra at the top, because there's a mustache that's going to go on after we assemble this thing. So see, then you won't see that little gap right there. So upper beard, wider part at the top, and then put your adhesive, center it here, because it's going to overlap the edges a little bit. I'm trying to decide if maybe we shouldn't even put this on, but no, we're going to put it on. Sometimes I don't put this on until after we've assembled the ball, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on. Mainly because I already had glue on it anyway. And it's going to be easier to trim these side ones to fit. Okay, so see how that's going to overlap? All right, so then we want to use these pieces here, but we really don't want them all crammed up into that one. So what we want to do on these is cut the inside edge just to match the ball. So see, we're going to end up trimming all of that off. Okay, so basically we want to trim this half so that it fits on this side, right? So move it to one of the other ones because it'll be easier just to trim the extra whiskers off on the side. Let's see, what's the easiest way to do that? You know, honestly, the easiest way to do that probably is just to mark it like this. Okay. All right, so now we've got the angle of the piece we want to trim off, and then why don't we just trim both of them? Let's put them face to face so that we're trimming the opposite side. So see, all right, here's the upper of both of them. Let's turn it and go face to face, so pretty side to pretty side, and then you've got that pencil line. Then you can just trim those whiskers off, and now you've got mirror image with that side trimmed. And then when I glue this on here, see, it won't cram up because it'll be flat on that side. I'm actually considering not putting those two on though, because we could always add them. Nah, they won't get in the way. It'll be fine. You know, it's always for me a decision of whether or not you're adding, you know, all the decorator pieces for a character before you assemble, or whether you're just adding the ones that are kind of structural and then finish it out after. And but because we're going to assemble this, so I kind of don't want you to have to bother with those whiskers sticking out, but I don't think they'll get in the way. And it is easier to decorate pieces while flat when you can, so. Okay, let's see here. All right, so whiskers on the front of his head, I guess, so to speak, and then just regular brown trapezoids for the other three. And again, when you're doing tone on tone like this, you may think, well, could I just save the paper and not put it on? I mean, yeah, you can absolutely try, especially if you've used that 100-pound cardstock. But I will say I do like the functioning of the balls better when they do have the extra stability of those decorator pieces on. So, you know, if I don't want the contrast of, you know, a two-tone, it's not like I can't just use the same color, which is what we're doing here for the head and the hats, is we're just using the same color so that we don't, shrink, you know, because sometimes putting those on where you have a shadow has the, you know, the illusion of shrinking things. And so, all right, last 5. And we can get this thing put together. Now I do have a lot of videos on YouTube that use our dies. We do an assembly video. I do an assembly video for each die, all the pop-ups and the charms and the animals. I don't do assembly videos on words, but you know, the dies that basically require assembly of some sort have written instructions on the packaging, but you're going to learn it a lot easier, quicker, and better if you just watch the assembly videos. So there are assembly videos on YouTube for all those, but then I also do a lot of just card making, you know, just making pop-up cards on YouTube at least one a month as part of our designer challenge. So if you subscribe to us on YouTube, that's a great way to do it. All right, we're ready for assembly. We are ready to put these balls together. Okay, I think we're gonna start with the two that are for the base. Okay, in your pre-cut little baggie, we've given you a bunch of rubber bands. All right, they're all the same. They're all number 12 soft stretch rubber bands. So there is this particular brand of rubber band that I get on Amazon. And it is Alliance Pale Crepe Gold softest stretch number 12 rubber bands, and these work in all three of our ball sizes. Okay, and like I said, I like to do 2 in each ball. So I think we asked the stores and ourselves to give you 12 in case one broke or something like that, but you're only going to end up using 8 of them because we're going to use 2 in each ball. All right, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to take 2 of your rubber bands, okay, and you're going to flip over a ball set, and you're going to take those 2 rubber bands. You're treating them like a unit, and you're going to, you know, get them started in that slot and down, pull until they're in the hole. Okay, remember that we glued those 2 shelves together, so it may require a little effort to get them in there. But the better that you can try to not weaken this shelf in that process. So in other words, not bending the shelf out of the way, putting them in, and then putting the shelf back, but trying your hardest to get them down into the hole without causing too much damage to that little tab right there. Okay, that's sort of the goal. So you take 2 rubber bands together, turn it around, and get it started in the thing, and then until you kind of heard it click, they click into the hole. You want them down in the hole, so you got 2 in each one. All right, just go ahead and add the rubber bands to each one. Okay. That's why the lining it up for that first side is ever so important, so you can keep those cuts lined up to where you can just go right through and click into the hole. Okay, now they all have their rubber bands. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to start going around the ball connecting these tabs, but we have to go in the direction of the ball that does not have the cut. So you look here where the cut is, and you have to go the other way. See? So what do I mean by that? Well, okay, this is going to come over the top. I need to go this way around the ball until I get around to the other rubber band side. Okay? So how do I do that? I like to put my finger between the 2 tabs like this. That gives me a little surface to add my adhesive to each of these little half tabs. They are not going to glue to each other. They're going to sit side by side and glue to the other half of the ball. So this is where you use your best lining up that you can to make sure that those corners are straight. We want these corners really, really straight on those. And if your glue squishes out, just rub it off. That's why dry as clear is really important. Let's look inside the ball. You can really see it because we have a 2-tone ball here, how the blue tab is connected to the pink ball and the pink tab is connected to the blue ball. That's how the half tabs work. All right, and now we're going to go to the next one. Do the exact same thing. Okay. All right, then I set them next to each other. I flatten and I start just looking at corners. Okay, rubbing off any glue that squishes out. We definitely want them shellacked together. Okay, inside Blue's been connected to pink, pink's been connected to blue. So we have to do 2 sets of half tabs until we get around to the other full tab. And then now on this one, we're gonna kiss connection them like we did on the other side. So this time it's adhesive just on one of the tabs, but all over it. Okay, again, if you wanna spread that out so you get good adhesion everywhere. Now you're not going to be able to use inside of the ball to get all the corners matched up, so you have to just kiss connection these and go by looking at the outside of the ball and making sure that your corners are perfect. If you get your corners perfect, it will line up the cut and the hole on the inside for you. So just really, really focus on those corners. All right, oops. All right, and then now look what we have. Basically have connected around to the other half of the ball. Okay, technically that's the base, but it wouldn't matter. I mean, I don't know for you whether the rubber bands are coming, you know, I don't know which side's connected at this point. But now what we're going to do is we're going to reach in and, oh, you know what? I kind of forgot a step that I like to do for the mini ball. I forgot we were using the mini ball. Okay, we're using the mini ball. Okay, so one thing that I like to do, we can still do it. I'll do it on the other ones before we get to this point. But one thing that I found with the number 12s is if you can loop the rubber band around and into the shelf again on one of the rubber bands. Okay, so right now I've just got them both in there, right? Okay, so if I took one, just one, either one, and I just kind of looped it and back into the hole again, and then just pushed down until that new loop was all the way in the hole, because that's very important that it's actually in the hole. Okay, come on. Go down in there. Well, I usually do this before I start putting them together, but I got so excited about getting to the ball assembly part that I forgot to loop my rubber band. Okay, is it in there? I think so. All right. Yeah, it's in there. Okay, let me show you on one of these what I'm talking about. Okay, because I probably should have done it ahead of time. All right, so you take one of the rubber bands, either one, doesn't matter which one, and you're just going to loop it and go back into the hole again. Okay, so look what that rubber band is. That rubber band is now looped around and through the hole, so it's actually a little bit shorter than this one now. So I find with the mini ball, doing an extra loop on at least one side usually makes them a little bit better. And I had forgotten to do it on this one, so I did it afterwards. So I just looped it around and back through again. All right, now I'm going to take those 2 rubber bands across and into the hole on the other side. And I want to make sure I don't let go until they're down in the hole, okay? Because if you do, then it'll weaken that band. And then now I can see what kind of spring I have. I actually have a really nice spring on that. I mean, it's even trying to jump off the page. It's got so much spring. So I feel like that's good. Now, let's say it didn't have enough spring. I could take the one that feels a little looser because it doesn't have a loop in it. And once again, I could loop it back, and I can't let go till I get it down in the hole because it'll weaken that shelf if I do. So gotta be all the way down in the hole. See, I'm pushing down till it's in the hole. And I could put an extra loop in it on that side. See, and then that'll make it even tighter. Okay, so you always have the option to loop your band another time through. But the main thing is that you don't want to let go, and you don't want to try and do these without having all of the rubber band in the hole. Okay, because if it's just a little bit away from the hole, it's just going to pull this shelf and make it loose and fly right out of there. Okay, and then before you seal it up, just make sure that your 2 shelves, you know, that they're back in alignment again. If you have one that's kind of hanging down like this, you know, get it back in alignment again. Some people like to tape those closed. I never do. But I do make sure that they're, you know, in alignment again. All right, and then I'm going to finish out the last 2 half tabs. Two sets of half tabs, I should say. It's technically 4 half tabs. Okay, once again, half tabs, looking at the corners. Now I've got the rubber bands inside, so it wants to spring back open again, so I got to hold it until the glue sets up. And then last one. Okay, and corners. Okay, ta-da. All right, we have her base ball is in there. And actually it looks really good. I see one gap right here. Now if you have a gap, what you do is you carefully bring one side over the other just a smidge, just like that, and then bring it back out, and look how it just seals that gap back up again, okay? So if you have one gap, mine's a little tight, I gotta say. So maybe shouldn't have looped that. I was getting really good spring, and then I was like, oh, let me show them how they can loop that thing around. It'll be fine, but it feels, you know, very tight. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We've got 2 or 3 more to go. So again, I have to look in here, figure out which way the cut is, and go the other direction. I am, you know, I have sort of stopped the recording a couple times, like when I went to feed my dogs and I was missing the yellow hexagon. I had to find it. It was here. I just had dropped outside the tray. So anyway, I've lost my timer now. Don't exactly know where I'm at within my time frame, but I have a pretty good feeling that I really need to speed up. So I'm basically just doing the same thing that we have been doing, but I'm going to try and go a little faster. So we can get this thing done. I mean, all we have to do is just add the last pieces to the gnomes once we get them assembled, and then add them to the card. At least the card part itself is done. So this is, I did a Zoom class back in, I think it was the November class, and we did a card like this that was Santa and Mrs. Claus, and oh my gosh. Now we did another card too, so it wasn't only Santa and Mrs. Claus, but that class total took like 5 hours. Oh, what am I doing, y'all? Sorry, not even paying attention. I didn't have to put it on both sides. That's probably way too much glue. Oh, now I've got glue everywhere. Dry's clear, dry's clear. Okay, so I'm going to grab my 2 rubber bands. I'm going to go across into the cut and down into the hole, and I'm not letting go. Well, I only got 1 through. I'm not letting go until they're both in the hole on the other shoot. Sorry, my hands are so full of glue right now. All the way down in the hole. There it is. Okay. Kind of feel like I'm not going to loop the other side on this one, because this one, I don't know, feels a little tight. This one feels fine. On just you know, doing it with just the loop on the one side and not looping it on the other. I think I'm going to leave it. Okay. But really, the time to fix it is before you seal up, you know, the size of your... Oh, cute, cute, cute. It doesn't even have any gaps. So right here, maybe. Oh, perfect. Okay, got the 2 base balls done. All right. All right, that does seem to be working to do a single-sided loop. Okay, so when I get to this one, I'm going to just take 1, and again, I'm just looping it back around. Oh, wrong side. This side. Yeah, looping it back around the shelf and down into the hole. It has to be all the way in the hole before I proceed. And I can take the slack out. Is it this one? This one. Okay. Then I have to go in the direction away from the cut as I connect it together. Now, if you need inspiration for, and I mean making anything out of our ball dies, you should definitely join our Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group called Karen Burniston Pop-Up Peeps. So if you're new to the brand, and you're a Facebook user, I mean, some people don't use Facebook, but if you are, you can join that group. You do have to ask to join, so you search for it, Karen Burniston Pop-Up Peeps. And it has a couple questions that you have to answer, just mainly so that we can make sure that it isn't people that have sort of stumbled across it and they aren't card makers or whatever, or they think it's, you know, like, you know, I think one of the questions is, do you have a die cutting machine? You know, because these are made with dies. And then it is a brand specific group, so there are some rules about what you can post there. It really does have to feature our dies very heavily, and anything that you make that's a pop-up or an interactive, you know, you need to use our dies for the pop-up part of it. But we're pretty cool about letting you use all your stamps and dies from other companies and things like that as decorator. You know, we understand. People mix brands. People mix brands all the time. But, you know, you do have to be respectful that it is a brand-specific group. It's meant to show what you can make using our die set. So it really does have to be very brand-heavy, what you post there, just not brand-exclusive, except for the pop-up part. No posting with other people's pop-up dies. You gotta go post in their groups for that. But yeah, I mean, people are so friendly there. Grabbing both rubber bands, going across and into the hole on the other side. Gonna check it. Good spring. I don't feel like I need to loop, you know, one around. I feel like that's enough spring. So I'm gonna continue on. Okay, so sometimes this happens to me when I'm getting a little bit zealous, like I want to get something done, and so I don't give my glue long enough to set up, and then my rubber band side starts kind of peeling apart like that, you know, because I didn't give it much time. So what I like to do is just add my glue, and then I find a clip, like a chip clip or a quilting clip or something like that, and I clip that together to let that glue dry. And that would not happen if I wasn't going so fast, you know, if I gave my glue a little time. But that's how I repair it. So anyway, yeah, pop-up peeps. And then what you can do now, the best practices if you're looking, the best practices if you're looking for something specific, if you're like, oh, has anybody ever made a such and such, you know, out of the ball dies? Because I mean, believe me, they've made plenty of such and suches. The best practice, sorry, my thing keeps falling off, is to go search the group. There's a little search button, right? A little magnifying glass, right? And you could put in the term, like say you were looking for dinosaur ideas or unicorn ideas or something like that. You know, you can put that in the search and then it'll come up with all the things. Or you can go into the photos section and just kind of scroll through looking for what you're looking for. Or you can ask the peeps, you know, make a new post and say, hey, has anybody made a, I don't know, pick an animal that we don't have an add-on set for. So has anybody made an ostrich out of the ball dies or whatever? And then people will, you know, chime in if they've made an ostrich. Okay, here we go. We have girl gnome head, and she still's missing her two decorator trapezoids here and here because I put the braids on. All right, one more to go. So I'm going to loop one of these around back into the hole again. Okay, then I'm going to go opposite the side of the cut, going around, connecting the sides. So yes, Pop-Up Peeps is a great place to get ideas. Subscribing to my YouTube channel is a good way to get ideas. Subscribing to our newsletter is a good way to get ideas. We're not going to deluge your inbox. You know, I'm not organized enough for that. Sorry. We do send at least, usually one newsletter a month. Sometimes it's a couple if we have a new release or we have a class or something that we have to make an announcement about. But, you know, it's not like you're getting emails every day. But then on our monthly email, we do, you know, we do little giveaways, right? I mean, we understand dies are expensive. It's fun to win stuff. So every month you can go check out our designer challenge and leave a blog comment. That's pretty easy to do. And then you're in the running to win some cash for our website. Or we also have a little promotion that we do each month called Mission Poppable, where we challenge you guys to make a card using our dies in some theme that seems, whatever it is, like last month it was flowers. And you can post those on our Facebook page or Instagram with a hashtag. And then you're in the running. And those are, it's not a, it's still random, you know, like entry is all you need to do. You don't just make a card and put the hashtag, you don't, it's not, nobody's judging it, you know what I'm saying? It's just a fun way for everybody to participate. So yeah, we do stuff like that. All right, I feel like I'm gonna have the same situation where I haven't let my glue dry up and then I'm pulling it with my rubber bands, but I think it's okay. All right, I definitely like to try to get both the rubber bands, you know, around my fingers at one time so that when I'm sliding through that cut and into that hole, I get to do it all at one time, and I reduce the, you know, the possibility that I'm gonna weaken that shelf in the process. All right, that looks good. All right, so then the main thing is, you know, because you have whiskers and stuff, those need to be, try to make sure they stay to the outside of the ball. So see right here, I want to get those on the outside as I connect these two together. That's why I was kind of debated about whether I should put those on ahead of time, but it's harder to trim them to fit, you know, if the ball's already put together. So we also participate, I'm just thinking other places you can get ideas. So Stamp and Scrapbook Expo does their at-home events, and my business partner Tanya, she does a video tutorial of something using our dies each month. It's usually per month. I don't know, I guess it's not necessarily every month, but every time they do an at-home event, we usually participate. And by we, I really mean Tanya. And her teaching style is so much different than mine. And she likes to joke around that she's doing kind of like the pop-ups for dummies version, because she, you know, she doesn't live, breathe, and eat this pop-up stuff the way I do. And so she really teaches in such a very approachable way, I guess, with especially for people that are new to the pop-ups, or you know, she's not you know, she's not talking to you about CAD drafting and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little math nerdy that way. So so those are fun, and Tanya has such a fun personality, and she has such great, beautiful projects. So you can follow those as well here on the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo pages. All right, we are ready to put these gnomes together. So let's talk about her. So we already know where the face is. The face is where we have this piece right here, and we have our two X's where we haven't put the trapezoids on yet. And we're going to then glue her head to her body. Now the body, what I like to do on the bodies, if there's no difference, you know, if they're all the things are the same, I just look for a rubber band side, because I think they look the best when it's rubber band side over rubber band side versus rubber band side over just like a plain side. I just think they operate better. So you have two choices, right? So you can look for the one that has the full seam, and or look inside to see if it has a shelf, and decide if you think this side looks better or this side. For me, it is definitely this side, because this is the one that has my tight rubber band, and see how it's pulling in just a little bit there and there. I can fix that. I'll show you how to fix that. But for now, it's not inverting, so it's fine, but it's just a little tight, my band. That was the one where I looped it twice. It's a little tight in there. Okay, so I'm going to glue the head to the body on her. Okay, I think it's easiest to get it started, then flatten both balls, and then give it a second. Cool. All right. And then for him, again, face is already set, and then we just have to look for the rubber band side that we think looks the best. And so I think it's this side. This side has the fewest glue boogers. Okay, so flatten him. Okay. Look at how these are coming together, y'all. And you have a bunch of leftover rubber bands as well. I don't know if it's that many. I must have just put a big handful in mine. But you should have enough to at least do one other set. Okay, so let's talk about decorating these as gnomes. We don't have a ton of pieces left. Woohoo, we're getting towards the end. All right, for her, she has a set of braids. They have 3 score lines in them. So there's one at the top, folds to the back. Okay. One in the middle folds like valley fold, you know, so it's mountain, valley, and then mountain at the bottom. So see, it's kind of a little M, like this. All right. And then the more rounded side is actually the back of her head. But what we're going to do is we're going to connect these 2 long tabs to these 2 X panels. So what I would do is put your adhesive on the back of the long braid tab. And then what we want is I'm just centering it, the tab, in the space of the thing, but I want the fold of the tab to be right at the fold of the ball. So if you want to collapse the ball like this so that you can really get a good adhesion, you can do that, okay? So this is the only place it's connected, is just that little tab right there. All right, I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Adhesive under that tab. Okay, then we're going to connect it right here. That. Okay, then I can put those final 2 decorator trapezoids on. And they're going to partially cover that tab. So it just gives a little bit cleaner look to save those trapezoids, so that it looks like the braids are under the hat, which is kind of the illusion that you're trying to create. Okay. All right, now, if space were no issue, you could just leave those braids loose, but then look at the size card you'd have to be to hide that gnome, because they're going to splay out when the balls are collapsed. So these are designed so that you can attach the lower end of the braid to the lower half of the bottom ball, and then they collapse into the ball set as it closes, okay? So those are sized. The reason this is called a mini balls add-on set is specifically because these braids are designed so that this distance spans a stacked set of mini balls. Now, does that mean that you couldn't use the bitty ball, you know, the larger ball, the surprise ball or whatever on the bottom or the top or whatever? No, you just might have to move folds. Like, it may not be that the entire bit of this, you know, because if you imagine making this 20% bigger, you know, it may just be the tip of the braid that ends up, you know, reaching the fold, because the fold's going to move 20% further this way, if that makes sense. But for 2 stacked mini balls, they fit just perfectly. All right, and then let's see if I can collapse it so I can give it a good press. Yeah. So now the braids collapse inward, and there's no additional footprint to them, but they also come out from the body a little bit. See, it's not like they're hugging the, you know, so you get that kind of dimension to them too. So that's how those are designed. They're kind of fun. All right, she's going to get a hat. I can feel how close we're getting. Put the adhesive at the top here. And, you know, it's kind of up to you. You can always collapse the ball down so that you can give things a really good press, you know, in the closed position, although that slid out. There we go. All right. And then on the nose for her, which is the shiny metallic, you know, I kind of like with noses to just brush a little brown ink around the perimeter. That's my favorite, but that's optional. Okay, the nose is going to overlap the hat just a little bit, and then it's going to hang over the edge of the ball. So if you just kind of put your adhesive in that center area there, you wouldn't really want the adhesive on this underside of the nose that's hanging over into air. Okay. Now, since she doesn't have a beard, she's going to get a little smile. So that's that little red smile. Came out of the set that you die cut. That can go down here, wherever you think looks best. Beauty. Now, I thought what would look cute for her would be to have her have a little flower in her hair. So I actually asked you to cut the washers, flower washers, out of the plaid paper. And since it cuts 2 at a time, you probably have 2 washers, but or I mean, yeah, 2 of the flowers, but you're only gonna use 1. Well, I only seem to have 1, so that's fine. I only have 1, so I'm gonna use this one. And then for a center, you can use one of the bigger dots out of our mushroom overlay that we cut out of the black mirror card. And that'll cover the whole, give it a little thing. And then I'm gonna glue that to the hat, maybe something like that. She's coming together, y'all. She's coming together. Okay, let's talk about belts. We can do both belts at the same time so that we just have it ready for our guy gnome as well. All right, so we did the glitter Mary Sparkle on the belt buckle. And what you do is you take something like a paper piercer's my favorite, or you could use a toothpick, and you put your tool through, you know, under, over, under, like that, to kind of like hollow out the slots. And then it makes it much easier to just slide the belt right through. Okay, I'm gonna do that again for the other one. So I take my little glitter belt buckle and I go under, over, under, kind of hollow it out like this, and stick my belt through the slots. Okay. And you'll notice the belt ends are tapered, and that's because you decide which way it goes based on whether you want to attach it below the seam. So basically they'll line up with the ball sides, right? So you can go below the seam, or you can flip it and go above the seam up here. And that's just completely up to you. For her, I went above the seam, and for him, I went below. So let me show you what I mean by that. So for this one, I'll do the tapers matching the edge of the ball. So the tapers are going this way. Not on the edge, that's crooked. Okay, and then for him, I'll do it below, so the tapers would go the other way. And it seems to fit the best just kind of right along the top of the paper that you've added there. Seems to be the space where it kind of spans the best, whether that's above the seam or below the seam. Alrighty, we are getting there. Let's do some arms. So she gets to have pink arms, and he has yellow. So we'll just get both sets of arms out and both sets of hands, which, by the way, they're just kind of mitten hands. So when you're doing their Christmas gnomes, you could cut those out of a collar and they'll just look like they're wearing mittens. Or you can, you know, in this case, they'll just look like they have mitten hands. Maybe a little brown around the edges here. Now for her, the ball color is the darker pink, and then her shirt is the lighter pink. And so what I did is I did the sleeves out of the darker pink so that there would be contrast against the lighter pink. So I don't really need to ink the edges because I have contrast between the sleeve and you know, the decorator pieces. So I'm just going to put a little glue on the ends of the hands and take the sleeve and attach it. Okay. And then those can really go wherever you want. So you can explore, do you want to snake in behind the braid so that she can have her arms kind of sticking out a little more forward? Or do you want to have them kind of coming down to the side, so then you would go sort of behind the braids? And on mine, I did behind the braids, all right? So I put my adhesive up here in this corner, okay, and then attached the shoulder to that. And then what happens is the braid kind of pushes out the base of the arm a little bit as it opens, so you get a little fun dimension to that. That's why I only use the shoulder as the connection point. We'll glue here, shoulder, and again, if you can flatten it, you can always give it a good press. All right, so she has her hands. And then actually, you know what, let's just finish her out, because the only thing left for her is her shoes. So the shoes, we're going to do the black mirror sparkle, which is going to take just a second to set up because that's mirror sparkle. So I'm going to put adhesive on the base in those two corners. And the only thing about adding shoes is just don't pin down your brad in the process. So just make sure that when you do that, that your brad can still be opened. And then there, she has her little shoes. I'm going to just set her aside so her shoes can dry. And then over here with him, I'm going to do black. Oh, so that's what I was saying. So for her, I had a contrasting color, but for him, I did the yellow, which is the same color as his shirt. So then what I think looks good is then if you use the same, whatever your ball color is, so in this case, black, and then you go around the edges of your sleeves, then it kind of mirrors the look of having the edging like you do for the ball itself. So that's my favorite styling tip for making your sleeves. I mean, I kind of do that on the animals too. If they, you know, if their arms are the same color as the ball itself or the decorator panels, then I add the edging around the outside with a pen or with an ink pad. Okay, so his arms, I basically, you know, he doesn't have braids that are in the way or anything, so his can kind of go more sort of a more prominent angle. Like this, they don't have to be hanging down on his side too much. All right, his hat is going to go on the same way that we did with the girl gnome hat. So adhesive up here at the top. Hat on, and then flatten to give it some pressure. Oops, trim on there. Ooh, cutie. All right, and then for him, his mustache needs to go on before his nose so that the nose can overlap both the mustache and the hat. So for the mustache, I'm going to attach it to the upper half of the ball by putting adhesive there, but then letting it kind of hang down over the seam. See, there's a fair bit of that mustache that sticks out. So those are the type of things like mustaches and arms and noses and things like that that add to the footprint of the ball. Not significantly, but just enough that you would probably need to go to a 4-inch width. If you were doing a slimline, you could do a 4x9 slimline, and then you'd still be able to fit it in even if he's decorated with add-ons. Alrighty, so nose. I'm going to put a little brown around the edges. Okay. I like to have it overlap the mustache and the hat. Oh goodness, what a cutie. Okay, lower beard. Lower beard is this one. Now, those come in 2 pieces so that you do not have to try to get a fold line in that valley of 2 balls connected together. I think that that would be really difficult. So instead the beard comes as an upper and a lower, and you just make them match at the seam. And that way it doesn't matter which ball you're using at the bottom, you can just push the beard up until it touches the one, you know, coming down. Okay. And then that way it doesn't have to have a fold in it. Ooh. Sorry, mine got a little off because I closed it so fast. Okay, and then he's going to get, well, he's going to get his shoes. Let's put his shoes on so that we have some time for that adhesive to dry on that mirror cardstock. Okay, he's going to get a cute little bow tie. So that little bow tie comes in the mini ball pop-up set, and we cut it out of the plaid paper. And then you'll notice here what I did is I did a little black dot in the center of the bow tie, and then the other two were buttons. But I noticed during pre-cutting that I have two different sizes here, so I'm going to use the bigger one on the bow tie, and then the smaller ones will be the buttons. Ooh, I just tore that without getting the adhesive off the thing, so I'm going to use some glue. That was done with score tape on the back, but I just separated the cardstock on accident. So. Okay, and that can go kind of over the beard, like it's peeking through the beard. Oh, his shoe's falling off. Sorry, y'all, I'm trying to get through this because of time here. All right, put your shoe back on now. Is it weird that I talk to my characters? I think that might be a little weird. I meant to take that off, get that out of there. Okay. I'm going to use the other little mushroom circles as buttons. That's totally optional. Just kind of, oh, something fun. Oh, I see. Ooh. So I think it's actually the score tape on that side got a little messed up. Oh, I got it. Okay, we did it, you all. Oh my goodness. We are almost done with this card. So close. Alrighty. Whew. Okay, let's add the gnomes inside the card. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up, and I gave you in your handout a measurement for where to put the holes. Now you could just kind of eye it. You could flatten them, you know, kind of go, oh, I want her to be around here, and just kind of figure it out. Or if you want to measure, then you're going to use your ruler, and you're going to measure 2.5 inches from the center fold, and then 2 1/4 from each end. Okay, so 2.5 from the center is basically like here-ish. I'm just going to put a little like pencil line that I can erase later. Okay, and then I got to go 2 1/4. Ooh, I'm real close actually. I don't have to erase it at all because here's where my thing is. All right, so then this is going to be real same location, but just 2 1/4 from the other end. So it's going to be somewhere in here. I'm not even on, oh, you guys, I'm not even on the camera. All right, here we go, 2 1/4. So like somewhere like that. Do those look like they're, let's see if I'm about 2.5 from the back. While I am, I could go up just a little bit. Okay, so I've got my locations. So they're 2 1/4 this way, 2.5 this way. But there's room. Like, see, they're not so tight that you couldn't be off a little bit and have them still fit. Okay. All right, so now we're going to punch holes. And the other thing too about these is you can punch the hole, and then you put the gnome in, and let's say you just really wish you could move it over a little bit. It's not like you can't, because no one's ever going to see the first hole you punched as long as you keep it in that general area, you know. Okay, I did the boy gnome on the right and the girl gnome on the left. It's up to you. On there. But you're just going to open the prongs, flatten both balls down, and then keep them flattened until you can open the prongs on the back, because otherwise the brad can fall out inside the ball. See? And now he spins. He's within the card in the closed position. Wonderful. So I'm going to flatten her, open up these prongs. Okay, got to keep it flat. while I get those prongs through the card, open them up on the back side. Again, she's well within the limits of the card. No issues there. Spins around. I mean, perfect. Okay, very, very close. All right, only thing we have left to do is to add this little oval and flower. And where this goes is up to you. This is as a place to write a personal, to sign your card, essentially, because we have such busy paper. There wasn't just a natural spot that, was open enough for you to sign. So we gave you a couple crosshatch ovals to layer together as the place to sign the card. Okay. The reason I chose the location I did is because I wanted this to be generic enough to be able to send to anybody, a friend or whatever. And right here it says, "Be my honey." And so I thought, oh, well, then that might make it where it has to be like an anniversary card. So, which would make a great anniversary card or, love card or Valentine's Day or anything like that. But if I covered that up, then it just says, "You're beautiful, sweet as honey." Those are just more generic phrases that could be used for anything. So that was my thought process anyway, as to why I put this here. It's because it would cover up the "Be my honey." Okay. And then to embellish it, I did one of the light blue flower washers with the black shiny circle. Kind of like we did on the other flower on the front with the bigger circle. And then that just kind of goes in a corner. It's decorative. All right, so this card is essentially done. Only thing we have left to do is two things. One, you have a piece of yellow cardstock that you cut to go on the back of the card so that it will cover up the brad prongs and kind of cover up that visible tab connection there too, okay? So I had you cut that one, and it's just a little bit smaller than the back so that it's not, so you don't have to line it up right to the corners. Now, when you have this thing closed, you're going to get this arch to it, right? Like this, right? I mean, I really think, well, it's up to you. I mean, you could glue this on and just like seal the arch into it, but I think you might prefer to try and make that as flat as possible, when you glue it on, to help the strength of it so that you're not sealing it in a bowed shape, if that makes sense. So what I would do, it's a little fiddly, but what I would do is I'd put my adhesive around the perimeter, staying just a little bit off the edges because the yellow is a little bit smaller. Okay. And I'm gonna not go right up to my brad so that they can still spin around pretty easily underneath the cardstock if they need to. And then in the air like this, I'm going to put that yellow cardstock on so that I can really attach it more flat than curved. And it will curve as soon as I close, as soon as I close up the card, it's going to curve it. But at least when it first went on, it was in a very flat, position to help the strength of the card. Okay. And plus it just cleans it up. Back is now yellow. Alrighty, then put this over the top, this like this, and then you engage your closure like this, around and around. I mean, you don't have to go until the twine is out. You can kind of decide where you think is enough, and then you could maybe tie a little knot in the, I'm going to do a double knot. If I can hit it. I'm not always the best at hitting my knot. Oh, I did a good job. Okay, so then I'm going to trim a little bit past my knot. All right, so I've got mine now. Now you have to make a decision. There's one last thing that I did on mine that you can choose to do. Okay, right now, if I let it go and open it, it's going to bring the back wall all the way open to flat, which is lovely. I mean, that's a great thing. And if somebody wanted to display it, they could still put it on the mantle and just prop it up, against the wall or whatever, and it would be fine. Okay, so that's up to you. You could be done. You could be completely done. But I thought it would be fun to show how you might use a paper stopper so that it will only pop up to this 90-degree location. So it basically seals its display angle by having these little paper stoppers in there. Okay, now you might love that, you might hate that, so that's why I'm saying it's completely optional. but I had you cut that floral strip into 2 4-inch strips. Now right now we have stripes on it, and I decided I didn't want stripes, so I'm going to cut next to the pink stripe and remove it on both. I mean, if I keep a little pink, it's fine, but it's, you know, I decided I just wanted them basically to be these white flower strips on mine. Okay. The other thing is, if you want to check and see if you like it or not, it's not like you couldn't do like a tape runner or something to check it first and see if you like the effect before you kind of secure it with glue. But what I'm going to do is, basically what I want to do is I want to have that strip glued in just at the very top to the back wall, and then I'm going to bring it out to connect it over here when I get the viewing angle where I want it. So step 1 would just be to put a strong adhesive like a glue, just one little strip at the top, and then let's see where I started mine. I started mine right at the edge of the paper so that the edge of the flower strip just comes right to that teal on the paper, okay? And I'm just going to do that on the other side too so that I'm consistent. So the only thing connected right now is the very, you know, just this much of the end of those paper strips, okay? All right, then what I want to do is lift this up to wherever I attach the other end will keep that back wall, you know, up. Now, I don't want it to be like too far, right? I mean, I would like it to be maybe just with a little bit of a backward angle. For me, it actually turns out that if I just connect them right to the edge of my teal, like if I cover my teal strip, that seems to be a good spot. So I can put my adhesive here and here. Let me show you, I'll show you that closer. See, it just happened to be on mine, and that sort of depends on where you put your little teal strip, so you would still want to check it with yours. But if I now bring the end of that paper strip into that glue on both sides, I gotta give it a second to set up. Okay, so now as you look at it from the side, it's basically holding that back wall, you know. And then when you close it, you're not really looking to put a huge crease in it. You're really just looking for it to curl because it's got all this room in there. See how it's just curled? It's not like, you're not trying to like squish it down to where it like it's really, really creased. I mean, it would probably still work, but it'll work better if it doesn't have a huge crease in it. But then now, see, now when it flops open, it's not able to flop all the way to the back. Okay, so that's kind of a fun thing. Way to do it. Alrighty, I know, I'm sure I'm over on time, and so I probably can't spend a lot of time chit-chatting, much beyond just telling you the size of this card and what size envelope you would use. I designed it with the idea that it would fit in an A9, but I really did not anticipate it being quite this thick. So, I mean, it fits in an A9 envelope, y'all, but I mean, you are going to be cramming it in there, look. I mean, in theory, it would fit. The dimensions of it would fit, but because of the thickness, it is, it just barely fits. But it does fit. So, I mean, if you wanted to mail it in an A9, you're obviously going to need extra postage. I mean, that thing's heavy, and it's way more than 1/4 of an inch, so it's going to need extra postage. But it will mail in an A9 envelope if you cram it in there. Or your other option would be, probably my favorite, since you have to pay for extra postage anyway, go with a 6x9 bubble mailer, because then it's going to have that little bit of extra protection in the mail from the bubble mailer. And you spend all the time on the card, so I mean, you do want it to come out and be, you know, operating real nicely. Now, let's say that you plan to store this card for 6 months until your anniversary, okay? So the rubber bands can stretch out when they're stored flattened for a long period of time. And so when you go to open this right before you mail it, you may find that they just sort of barely come up, or they come up lethargically, or they're not as springy as they were. The double rubber bands definitely helps that. But the thing is that if you leave them open for a little while, like half the day, those rubber bands will tighten back up again. It is amazing the difference. So like you may have had it stored for half a year and it may pop up and still feel a little lethargic, and then just leave it sitting out on the counter, you know, on the table for half a day or so, and those rubber bands will, you know, tighten back up again. And so that when you just flatten it and mail it, you know, and then they'll get a good spring. And, you know, and then when they get it, it should spring up real nicely. And if it doesn't, they can also just let it sit out for a while and those rubber bands will tighten back up again. So, all right, y'all, we did it. Thank you so much for joining us for our June Spotlight event. Thank you, Stampin' Scrapbook Expo, for hosting. And, you know, come visit us on Facebook or join our newsletter, follow us on YouTube. And y'all have a great day.